Hi, everybody. Intro. Again, food, restaurant there. M.L.S here. If you'd like to talk to Jahrell, there's forms up here if you'd like to sign up to be a seed library member. There's also a form if you'd like to talk about landscaping with Jahrell and some information about the public library. I'm going to be pretty brief. Hopefully somebody knows CPR because I haven't done public speaking in a few years. So if there's any issues, feel free to. I just want to talk briefly about the seed library. There's often questions people have about it. Some of the questions is why a seed library and why here? Years ago, I bought a house and I had always lived in apartments and I really didn't have the ability to make a really large garden. So what I decided to do was dig out about a third of my yard. When I did that and I started shopping seeds, I realized how expensive seeds were, especially if you're going to do on a large scale. And so I started looking at other ways to get seeds, even just kind of going out in the wild and picking seeds. And what I realized is that there were seed libraries all over the country, but there wasn't one here. And what I decided to do, since I work generally in project management field, was just start. So resources together, I originally bought some seeds and just had one little box, the colony, which was the mall, and there was an indoor farm market there that allowed me to put the seed library. I mentioned a little bit about cost. You can try things that you might not normally want to go buy because you didn't lose anything by trying it. Another benefit is that if you grow seeds here and then you harvest the seeds out of the plants that did really well, that plant is more acclimated to this specific microclimate than something you might get from a seed provider, corporate seed provider. If you donate some of those back to the seed library, then someone else takes those seeds that are better for this specific area. And over time, the genetics of the seeds really are perfect for here. And it kind of helps with germination rates and it keeps our community going. Another part of it is one thing I love is I pull seeds from my plants and I put them in the library and then you check them out and put them in your yards. And I know that something that I love is now part of your home or your property and it's bringing in pollinators and it feels amazing. And I hope, any of you that donate seeds to the seed library can realize that what you're actually doing is you're making this whole community more beautiful with the flowers or providing more food security with edible vegetable seeds you might donate. Another benefit is food security. There was a time where I had some issues with food security and I realized I knew how to do things with computers, but I had no idea how to grow food. Now, because of the seed library, you can try things, you can learn these skills that can be really good and beneficial and make you more self-reliant, which is something that I think is important. Just to have that self-reliance and be connected to your food. So how does a seed library work? People often ask. What I do is there's the way that seeds work for companies that, I don't want to say manufacture, that grow seeds is seeds have to be packaged for a certain year. So if you bought seeds that are good this year, they were harvested last year, set for this year. At the end of this year, those seed companies often have to just destroy those seeds because they're not allowed to sell them being over a year old. So these seed companies can actually donate to different seed libraries, school programs, anything where they can sort of have tax benefits of unloading some seeds. And so that's generally what I do with the company. I reach out, I talk a little bit about the seed library, I explain what we're doing, and then sometimes we'll get a few packets from a seed company. Sometimes we'll get a 60-pound box, as we remember a year and a half ago, which we didn't expect, but it's great. My wife, Heather, and I like to sit at our kitchen table and listen to music and put seed packets together. It's really sort of this Zen thing, so we enjoy doing that. About 25 hours in the last 6 days, I think. You okay? But we essentially just have sort of coin packets and stick-on labels, and that's how we put it all together. I had a visual aid which I left on my kitchen table, which is very inconvenient, but the seed packets themselves, sometimes people have questions actually. Yeah, would you mind doing that? I had a sort of a poster with a large image of the front of a seed packet, which I forgot. But people often ask, at the bottom of these seed packets, it says type, and then there's a little abbreviations. What I do there is OP means open pollination. That means you don't have to have other plants of the same type, certain genders of plants in order to have them pollinate. Heirloom is basically a seed where someone has harvested from the plant, replanted that, harvested from that plant over and over for a minimum of 50 years. So heirloom seeds are pretty amazing with the logistics that it takes to do that. I started saving seeds from a specific Genovese basil plant that I call heather basil, because my goal is to live long enough to have an heirloom seed with my wife's name on it. And you can register heirlooms over time, which is, I don't know if you knew that. That's pretty cool. OR on the seed packets stands for organic. That just means they weren't grown with any synthetic chemicals or anything like that. NG means non-GMO. I don't know if you're familiar with, there's some debate about non-GMO items, but it basically means they weren't genetically modified to be what they are. HY is hybrid. This often happens in corn, where there are two types of corn that were sort of bred together to make a hybrid breed. And if you take seeds from that plant and replant it, it might not be the plant you took the seeds from because they were hybridized to get there. And the last one is UN. That just means unsure. Sometimes people will give us seeds and say, this is from my okra. I don't know where I got the seeds. Somebody gave them to me. I don't know if they're organic or whatnot. On the seed packets, there's an item number at the top. The state requires that seed libraries track donations that come in of seeds to know where they came from. And then when we give them out, to provide that information in case there was ever some sort of a trademark or a patent question. If somebody, if a major seed company came to your house and said, why are you growing my corn? You could say, I got it from the seed library. This is the packet. Here's the seed number. They could come to us, so we could say, oh, number 430. That's this from this company. It was donated on this date. So we do all of that tracking. We're actually I think we're in the mid 500s of different types of seeds that have been donated now. So our item numbers are 500, which is really amazing. The first year we didn't break 30 for how many different types of seeds came in. I want to cover programs. So right now the Seed Library has two programs. The one is the Gardener Spotlight. Some people donate a massive amount of seeds, and it's wonderful. And I just wanted the community to know about those people, because if you have a garden and you plant, you want to show it off. You tend to post pictures of it, and if you collect, it was an amazing grower of peppers of the Gardener Spotlight, has his entire box down. It's a really nice guy. So that's a program that I'm going to keep going. So if certain people have a lot of seeds they like to donate in, or even just a little bit, you do Gardener Spotlight, sort of a little bio, pictures of their gardens, etc. The other program that I'm starting is it's a seed steward program. So I mentioned we do a lot of seeds. We get a lot of seeds donated by local people and also corporations. But sometimes we'll have seeds that maybe we'll get 1 or 2 packs of it, and that's it. And when we put them in the library, and they're gone. So in order to be more self-sustaining with having to reach out to people, the Seed Steward program would allow anyone who's a gardener to reach out. And I could give you a very specific plant. You plant them for the purpose of harvesting the seeds to give to the library. I had giant white seeded sunflowers that I got a few seeds. I think it would be 10 seeds. And I wound up with 3 1-gallon Ziploc bags of seeds by the end of the first year. So, I'm still giving those out. But that's essentially what the program is. So if you have any interest of growing even a single plant back, that could be very helpful. I also have plans for the future for 2 programs in the works. There's some people who don't have a garden. There's some people who don't even have a front step that they can put plants on. There's some people who can't afford to even buy pots. And what I would like to do is raise some funds in order to give some soil, some pots, and some seeds to certain people in need, so that they can grow plants in their house, in their apartment. And if they don't have a yard, if they don't have other means, it can kind of help them with at least brightening their life a little bit, or growing some food or some herbs. So that is in the works as well. Another program that I started that I'm still working on is called the PA Seed Alliance. When I started the Seed Library, I worked closely with the Department of Agriculture in Pennsylvania to make sure that I was following all of the rules that the state requires. Now, there are other seed libraries in the state as well, and I mentioned I had 3 gallons of giant white seeded sunflower seeds. There are other seed libraries locally that might not have that, but they don't know what I have. I don't know what they have in stock. And so the PA-Seed Alliance, part of that is to share stock, strengthen numbers. Another part of that is to help ensure that seed libraries are following the rules that the state puts forward. We don't want the name of seed libraries to be tarnished by lawsuits or somebody selling or giving away something terribly invasive. And so the PA-Seed Alliance sort of puts some information forth for seed libraries to kind of follow the rules. And we'll be putting out packets for people wanting to start seed libraries. There are two individuals starting the Berwick Seed Exchange now, actually, at the, I think it's the McBride Memorial Library, which is wonderful. And so we have an excess of certain types of seeds that we can give to them through the PA-Seed Alliance. So that's another plan in the works. Otherwise, another question people have is, what can I do for the seed library? Really, most of what we need are the materials. If you see the seed packets, these envelopes and the stickers, that adds up over time. And so it's been self-funded by Heather and I for years now. We've had some donations from other people. I'm not here to solicit any kind of donations from you, but I'm just saying if you have any interest in donating materials or seeds, you can go to our site, bloomseedlibrary.org, and you'll be able to see the items we need. And again, mostly we need packets and things like this. So for the future, the seed library is something that I hope to keep going and eventually have the community itself manage. Right now, it's just set up as a private club because starting a nonprofit is incredibly expensive and time consuming. But that is in the, hopefully in the future. But right now it is a club, which means anyone out there can become seed library president at any point. My stepkids just showed up. Hi. Everyone, Guy. Not embarrassing at all, right? But yeah, so this is essentially the base of the seed library, and I want to open up to questions because there's probably some items I haven't covered that maybe you have questions about. Does anyone have any questions?
I do,
yes.
Actually. How do you go about saving your seeds so that they can be donated?
Okay, and so I'm streaming this, so I'm going to repeat so the people here ask, how do I go about saving the seeds so they can be donated? Are you talking about harvesting the seeds?
Yeah.
Or how do we?
Yeah. How do we, is there a specific process for them to be eligible to be donated?
Yeah, and this is actually something Jahrell and I in the fall are going to have a program here where we fully cover seed harvesting because it is kind of, depending on the plant, it can be a little tough. Tomatoes are tough. It's not a real easy question to answer because it sort of depends on your plant. But for example, let's say sunflowers, once they're done and dried out, it's very easy to just take the heads and you can rub your hand over them like this and the seeds fall out. As long as you have them in a container that is out of the light and dry, then they'll keep well, they'll keep for years. As for seeds in general, depends on what the plant you have. I'd say a good resource is actually to go to Google for it. That's mostly what I do. It's just so different. I know tomatoes, you have to sort of put them in water and you allow them to ferment a little bit. If you find how to pull them from the plant, just keep them in a dry, cool area, and that will keep. I know that didn't fully answer your question, but it's if you have any specific things you want to know about, come and talk to me after and I'll give you information. Yes.
Did you say that you needed space and people to grow like your already stocked so that you get more back?
Collect the seeds for next year, yes. That's the seed steward. That's the seed steward program. Those seeds you harvest that grew well are better acclimated for here. So the goal is to have the community provide most of the seeds for the seed library without having to go outside of the community. So yeah, the seed steward program is exactly that. If you have 2 square feet, most plants could be grown in that for seed. If you have interest or anyone has interest, please see me after, or you can email info@bloomseedlibrary.org and I can go over that. But yeah, there are specific, what's that? Okay. Yeah, there are specific plants that we have needs. Some of them are more rare and they're for example, every time corporations donate, we have so many beets and radishes. It's 80% beets and radishes because not a lot of people plant those, which is still great though. A lot of people like beets and radishes, but sometimes we'll get a specialty pepper or a certain type of heirloom corn. Glass gem corn was an example of something like that, and I got just a seed packet and it's gorgeous. So I grew, I think I have maybe 4-gallon Ziploc bags of that as well. But, you know, I mean, one season you can prolifically provide seeds at the library that could last a couple of years. So yeah, if you have interest, come and talk to me afterwards. It'd be great. Any other questions? Yes.
I know you're saying you have to number them so that you can track which seeds are which.
Yes.
And some of them are marked unknown.
Yes.
How do you know whether or not the seed that someone donates is like I can't put this in the library versus this is okay?
That's a good question. You asked it if someone donates the seeds and they're listed as unknown, how do we know we can put seeds in the library and they're not proprietarily owned by another company? We don't. It could be a patented seed from Monsanto that someone has and they donate to us. But that's why we track, and that's why the state has us track its information. So if I think it's a very rare situation, but we're very by the book with this library, but if someone were to say, hey, I went on this person's property and tested this corn, and this is our patented corn, you can say, well, this is where we'll go down to item 430. It's corn, dent corn, donated September 2001 by lot number 3, and we look at lot number 3. It could be, just an individual, and at that point, if an individual is donating the seed, it sort of takes away the liability. Now, if it was Burpee gave it to us, and then they could say Burpee donated those seeds to us, and then they could say Burpee donated those. Interesting question.
Yeah.
Complicated.
When they put Monsanto goes after local seed libraries.
They don't. They basically was starting to make it, and so the state said, okay, seed library you should be able to do this without having to worry about liability if you give a seed out. And so these are the protocols in place to do so, and that's why we have the item number on this. So, good question. Thank you. Any other questions? I do want to say that there is an activity for kids. Any other type of holiday, or just give it to your mother-in-law because you love her. You could do that in the library. Chance for questions. Anyone? Local business owner, knows a lot about plants and seeds. Just an overall good guy. As I'm hyping it up on anything you could have ever known. So Jahrell's going to speak, and then we have him right here.
I was going to say, Mom told us we were starting at 10, going to 5:30.
Could you just do it over?
Sure.
Yeah.
You're right.
How you doing, guys?
Stretch your legs, use the restroom, get a library card, just saying, Excellent, excellent. We've got it, if you're interested in our online courses, I've got a flyer up there.
Dave, why don't you put the garden house down as being willing to grow whatever for you?
Okay, that would be great.
Do you have much that you really need?
Herbs are good thing, I think.
Oh, well, we can do the herbs
Or
for
you can
you.
never keep enough basil in the library. It goes and stuff like that. So basil is huge, and we have a lot of different types of basil too. But yeah, so basil. Have you harvested basil seeds?
No, but it shouldn't be too hard. I mean, they have very definite flowers and things that come up on them. You're always picking them off.
Right. Yeah. So something I have is this fine mesh like
Yeah.
drawstring. They can drop seeds all they want. They just drop it right into the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do, so I've walked to Fishing Creek Herb Guild. You guys don't belong, I know. I've never seen you there.
Yeah. I just found
There is a member who has been giving us seeds for an annual poppy. The multicolored, I mean, they're just gorgeous. And so we have thrown seeds all over the place. We will have a lot, and Nancy always has a lot. That is something. Yeah. So this is, you'd have to mark them as an annual because that's it. They're reseeding, they're not the perennials. But boy, are they we've got a lot of things that reseed that sometimes we wish we didn't have. Kiss me over the bar. So all of these are, they're all heirloom and so they are reseeding like crazy. We could certainly letting them just blow where we don't want them.
Yeah, that'd be great. I had an issue with morning rotation. It's like,
We have,
when I moved.
we don't weed, we pull out flowers, is what it amounts to.
Yeah, when I moved, essentially no morning glory at all. Just no water.
Right, no, they're invasive. Oh, yes, we have lemon balm also. Yeah, some things, and we have comfrey, and it's like, gosh, you don't want these plants,
When they're one plant, when they're all the plants.
Yeah. But if there is something else, I mean, I would gladly take whatever you want, and we could do some different basils, different places.
I can also align with the bark. So there are seeds that I have that are heirloom. Like I have,
they are.
there's parsley that's, I think it's 120 years old.
Okay.
So, for their heirloom garden at the Barton House, there are heirloom seeds that sort of align
With what we're doing.
So we could definitely, it's more for colors. A list of things that would be really nice.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's the right time to be starting on this, so. I did pick up a packet of basil the other day from downstairs. And I have seeded some at home.
Lettuce leaf basil is one that's really come back. It looks like lettuce. It's a lighter flavor.
Don't know that one at all.
I think it's about, this is the ground.
We have a little tiny cold frame that we don't usually put anything in, but we could take something like that all on its own and put it in, email me or message me.
That'd be great. That would be good. Yeah, my hope is really that community self-sustaining.
And I think this would Blue going towards Light Street, and you go up, the old big church there.
All the time. She'll find a seed or she'll find something, goes, Dad, yeah, and I'll just see them pop up, and I'm like, that's adorable. We love this.
My goal is to get
But have all kinds of different interests and
Excessive gardens.
So, a lot of vegetable gardens, a lot of perennial beds.
And the native, honestly, like biodiversity. That's a better word for forestry.
But it would be
Planting those
to
natives
have
and Pennsylvania natives, and for everybody else, wherever you are, planting your natives actually helps the
And we
bugs,
pay
the insects,
speakers.
and the soil.
Okay,
So we
Really
would
helps
pay
bring all
speakers
that
and it would cover buying one of your
I
bags.
feel like that's what I want to do my part. I'm gonna bring that all. In the last 3 years, everything I've planted around my house.
Well, yeah, I mean, do whatever you want with it, but it would cover some of your
Like, and they're just
shreds
all over.
that you're needing
I
money
sit there all the
for.
time. I can't wait to
So,
get a farm, to
$100,
get some
that's a long
space
way
outside.
for those kinds of supplies.
Yeah, we
The envelopes are about $30 per pound.
Oh, we are.
Yeah, I know.
I just gave everybody a little heads up on what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, these are just a few of the ones that I got started. I did this on purpose.
Yeah, I'll have to go
Actually,
down and
it
see
just
what
scared
else
me a
you
little
put
bit.
in.
A lot of the fans, I can get a little bit of mold to show people like airflow.
Yeah, all right.
Extremely
And I'll see,
These
well,
guys
I can message you,
as you see, like.
but you let me know,
But I
if you
figured
want
I'd
to
wait
give me
so that I
some
could show
stuff for this
everybody
year.
exactly what
Yeah,
it's like.
that'd be great.
I thought about five.
I guess tomorrow's Easter.
I'll just show.
This is probably early.
Next
early
week.
coming.
This is honestly my
Yeah, I'll go down and see what you brought in. Do you bring something different or you're just bringing in? Because I've been through your boxes a couple times.
Yeah, some of there are quite a few things.
I use direct.
Often what I do is I get a huge bag of something. I set it up, and then I might have 60 packets of completely different seeds. And with each packet, we create an item number, we enter it into the
It takes
database.
time, yeah.
Yeah, so what we did find, most of these are those, so that there's a lot of variety,
I have
small numbers of each, and what we brought this year.
Okay.
There's a lot of new stuff.
All right, well, I'm gonna go down and take a look at it.
Yep. They're so much better. I had other trays that were a lot less long and they had over 15 cells in them. And I felt like the cells were way too big for the seeds, you know?
Oh, good idea.
2 hours.
Oh, good idea.
I did the parking meter on the road. Yeah.
When I get there,
Right. Honestly, I would have moved them already, but I tried to stretch it out a little bit so everybody could see like what it looks like when they're really ready.
Hey, Dave, sorry.
Just so you know, you're streaming.
Oh, I know, we already,
As long as
we
that's
already
okay.
pointed it out.
Sorry, real quick, before you speak.
You probably need to get some coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, I might.
At the end.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Just wanted to introduce, my name's David Darling. We know a little bit about each other. We do farm at Catawissa Creek right across the bridge,
Oh,
go
okay.
over a little bit and down in the valley, right along the Catawissa Creek. But we have 130 acres over there, and basically all the equipment and whatever to greenhouse things, we do our farm and we can help out.
Oh, that's great.
Always been our goal to get back into like seed saving and stuff instead of just production. So we can do like a whole garden essentially, whatever you need.
Do an education.
That's awesome. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly like kind of along what we were talking about when we said we wanted to do the seed saving thing together. That would be great for us to like be able
Oh
to
yeah,
start.
yeah. You mentioned that on,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, you should come and do it in our farm right here now or whatever. And we have some really nice open space too. We got going on over there. So yeah,
That's awesome.
so I'll definitely sign up and send an email and yeah, I mean we're like 10 minutes away almost, so not very far.
We still have yet to be out there, but I can't wait to get out there and see it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have almost 4 kids. So getting anywhere is
Yeah,
getting anywhere is hard.
it is. It is.
We have one 15-month-old.
A couple more.
Free labor.
The funny thing is, I didn't expect that to happen, but they love it, honestly. Aaliyah, she's all about the plants. She'll help me start seeds and take care of them. Lily's a landscaper now.
Yeah.
I love it.
That was the first person we met.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, your baby's so cute.
That's great. Yeah, yeah. They follow in your footsteps, you know. It's pretty cool to see, honestly, to see your daughter trying to plant with you. Like, when they see you doing it, they're like, I don't know why, but this is fun.
We're
Let's do
being
it.
very conscious to like not treat it as work when
Yes.
she's out there.
Yeah.
Because that's how you like send them off to the city. They never want to come back.
Right.
If it's like a mom.
No problem. Yeah.
So it's like, look how cute it is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. Gotta make it fun, you know. They do run from work.
And it's like you're out.
Yeah.
I see it. It's stressful.
Streaming. So we can
Yeah, to show them the fun. You know, that's, I tried that from the beginning with my girls. As long as they like fruit, vegetables, you know, and I show them this is how you grow it. We got into bugs and all the good stuff in there. And it's like, that's their interest, you know, it's not work at all. It's connecting with nature. Yeah, that's what's cool.
Yeah, and, like we have so much space in the creek and like the PA fish and boat people are gonna come and tour our property on Tuesday because they've been spending so much money mitigating the mine runoff for the Catawissa Creek, and it's like almost back. It's like they're like next year we're gonna be like letting people kayak and fish in here. So it's like, if you want to,
Yeah. Come out there. That sounds like a place to be.
yeah.
Man.
You should have educational farming, such a big thing too. I wish I could be trained in something.
Yeah.
What it is for
Yeah, we've been growing a lot in the last couple of years. I mean, the property's been kind of like out of commission for 60 years. But it's been in one family since 1860. So, but they stopped in like 1979. The aunt lived there till 2000, and then it's been basically since
Yeah.
So a lot of infrastructure, upkeep, and pre-investments.
They're trying to replace the spot.
I'm sorry.
What they did is they
The growth
count.
count.
I guess they grew.
Traditions, yeah.
Those are
They kept it low. It's very fertile. I mean, we planted last year was our first growing season. Went really well. This year it seems like it's going really well too. Because I got a lot of people come in. We had like 2 tons of like straw from our barn that I took out and put all over our fields. Like tilled it in.
That's good stuff right there.
So
That's great.
but yeah, any way we can help. And our greenhouse isn't terribly big, but I'm actually kind of mad I didn't buy it bigger.
It fills up quick, doesn't it?
The early part of the year is hard because you have to keep it so warm.
Yeah.
But once we get about now, it's like easier.
There was a greenhouse, sort of like seashorts or other seashorts. They sponsored this little kids thing. But where I grew up, they had long, sort of like Berlin's or the place that had long greenhouses. They had 4 or 5 of them, and what they did is they had one of those. If you ever saw it, it's an outdoor wood stove.
Yeah, so we have one of those to heat our house.
Yeah, well, they used that. They piped some of
Yeah,
the greenhouse.
we have
Yeah, he did one of those for like 8 years. Triaxles of wood, chopping off.
Yeah, we have a really interesting way to do it. I basically build a smaller greenhouse, like I stack our tables and put greenhouse plastic over it, and I just use a space heater. It's at like almost 85 degrees in there in February.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really good. So we get really good germination like in February.
Yeah, you're ready to go, getting ahead of it.
I just read about somebody who they did that was 50 9 barrels. They sort of shade black and filtered in water, and they were just green.
So like thermal.
Yeah.
They absorb it, and then, but I guess it increases it about 10 degrees. Yeah, that's that big. Yeah, they got hundreds.
Yeah. Someone went out and the wrong door.
Yeah, you did. You look a little busy.
Good.
No, that's what he never did, honestly.
So you guys, you know each other for a long time, or?
Oh, yeah.
A few months, yeah. We just met.
Oh, yeah.
I remember who reached out to.
Seeds of faith. I have some seeds.
Yeah, I wanted to donate some seeds, and we started talking. Yep.
I want to connect everything together too, because there's so much. And I just heard about the herb.
Yeah, I just
You heard about what?
Herb Hill. It's like a group of gardening group. Locally. Members.
It's awesome. And everybody's doing things, just sprouting up all over the place. And it's good because it really does bring people together.
It's great. What I learned about you is the big birch garden. Because
Actually,
Bloomsburg.
oh yeah, there was a time in my life where I needed to survive. So after I got then I was like, okay. The first year of the garden, my last house to just like I can't over plant. So like 33 berries.
Yeah.
Probably not enough.
yeah,
Then you do.
yeah, I tell you all the time, I really dream about that. I feel like it was so much more than me. Because in my little space, I've actually built my own raised garden beds to pretty much to work with the area that I had to work in. I would love to. Like, I seriously can't wait to see it.
Plot out there. It's not.
Oh, at that.
And then we could also maybe like tie it on, with stuff from yours 7 years.
You want more green?
Fill up the
Make it
ski
as a way for
library.
people to come through.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to have, to be able to say, for Sea Library, so that we see these local gardens are out here. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
and then that's sort of a
Like these, right?
I played ice skateboarding, paddleboard. When I was younger, I was jumping off like everything. I played college sports.
Jumped
I look really good.
Give them a
Like,
good
I look
workout.
really good, but like the internals probably. I don't know,
You
man.
need some oil, huh?
Luckily, my wife does yoga and stuff, so.
I'm like a rusted old car with like a nice rack on the outside. No, it's not.
That's it.
A lot of rust.
I just came through the washer. That was
You might have known that. Everything's about if I hit a speed too hard.
I'm sure my check engine light's on, but I'm just gonna keep on going. I feel fine. Everything's
Yeah.
running good. No sounds. I don't hear anything.
Just
So
turn the radio loud.
just keep putting gas and oil in it. You'll all right.
All right, man. Thanks. Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, let's-
It's almost showtime.
Yeah, sweet. I'll like find your email.
Yeah, you can have the answer.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. I'll go to the- Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. I'm gonna go check over there. And then I might come back.
Hey, the girls still in there?
We're still streaming. All right. For water, right? Yeah. What's there for her? Oh, for her.
No, not for.
No, I have kept one. That's what my greenhouse is. Go to your room. Yeah, when all the girls start arguing, that's where I run to, my greenhouse. That's my safe space. Just finished this out. Great. Well, we have about 5 minutes. We're gonna be getting started soon. You guys all look ready?
Yeah, buddy.
Okay. You find out what you want from Dave?
And there's two.
Yeah.
Is that a great one?
Okay, we already have some of those.
Yeah.
It's a flag.
I don't have many more berries. Oh, wow.
Those are your
It's
blueberries.
showing something like that before. But what's in my blueberries?
It'd be quite something to own that plant
Oh, yeah.
and see it actually blooming.
This is my blueberries. Yeah, it would be.
What's this in my
They had something at their house that's really exciting. It's like the flowers come out, it's like a vase, and then the flowers come out with, I wish I had a picture of it. There's little flowers on the end of these like spikes.
Mhm.
It's really, I never saw anything like that before either. Of course, that's way more unusual.
Yeah, picture from Holland.
Oh.
I get all this plant stuff on Facebook anymore. But there've been a couple really good ones from Holland of the bulbs blooming.
Yeah.
Did you go take all the seeds in?
I need to go take all your seeds.
Okay, well, you should do that at some point.
We will stop there on our way home.
Hey, everybody, Jahrell will be speaking in just a few minutes. He is currently chasing his kid.
Question for you.
Yes,
Do you know if you have asparagus seeds?
I have very few asparagus seeds.
Okay.
So few that I just bought asparagus bare roots at the store the other day because I wanted to put the seeds into the library, but I wanted asparagus.
My dad has asparagus in his garden, so I didn't know if you like had options. I will ask if he remembers what. I know he has the New Jersey one. I don't remember if that's the purple one. He's got the green and the purple one.
The one that I have, I think, which I guess is the
Probably what he
standard.
has.
Yes, this is
Probably
the
what he
standard.
has.
Yeah, but we don't often get the seeds and then they go quickly.
Okay.
But that's great because you
There's
just,
lots. I will
yeah.
ask him to save some seeds.
How many years has he been doing it?
Not as many as he wants. Before he bought his house, he lived at a farm and he just had it like growing in the yard, and it was fantastic. And, like, as a kid, I liked asparagus because it was delicious. And so 6 years ago, maybe, because it takes a couple of years for them
the
to
right
mature
ones, yeah.
for you to actually be able to harvest. So I want to say 6. It could possibly be 10 years.
Yeah, I guess the longer you go, the better.
Yeah.
You can harvest more.
So and he just every year at the end of the season he lets it go to seed and just lets it sit there. So
Very nice. All right, well, it is 10:30, and so the next speaker, Jahrell Harper, is going to come up. Jahrell will be talking about all the things that he'll be talking about. But enjoy. Thank you very much.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jahrell Harper. Of course, as he said to you, I own Seeds of Faith as a very small business that I just started last year, and we provide raised garden beds, plantscaping, heirloom seeds, and starters. And this is just kind of my way of trying to give back to the community and just bring a little bit more life to, my family and yours, if possible. A little bit of information about myself. My wife, Sarah, she also is one of the owners of the business. She helps me out with a lot of little things, or honestly, a lot of big things. I gotta be honest. She micromanages me very, very well. And it helps me stay on task, truthfully. We have 3 little girls, Liliana, Aaliyah, and Aurora. And we have 1 more on the way. Her name's gonna be Thea. And we honestly are a very close-knit family, and we are getting into nature so much more, and it's really bringing us all together as a family. And we really want to encourage everyone else to do this too, with your kids, with your family, because it's really a great way to connect, when it comes to feeding and the nutrition and the learning curves and processes of it all. I currently work with Red's Plant Healthcare. These guys have really been helping me. The owner, Noah, and his wife, Becky, have been really helping me out with my knowledge of plants and my knowledge of, Pennsylvania natives, reconnecting with nature. One thing in particular, learning the difference between trimming trees and pruning, and proper pruning practices, which are very, very important for anything, for your trees, taking care of your land, and taking care of our native landscape, ultimately. My inspiration for all of this pretty much came from me building my own garden. As I said, I had to, going through the pandemic, I really hit a wall to the point where, having 3 kids and running into a situation where I can't work as much as I would like to, I realized I had to create a stable environment for my kids. I had to continue to provide for them and also had to create a very stable environment. And somehow nature literally just opened up to me and said, start became truly all learned how to grow. We learned how to adapt to the situation and adapt to the change. And that's one thing that nature can literally teach every single one of us. Every part of it is adapting to change constantly. It's constantly growing and it's constantly moving forward. So no matter how stagnant you feel, you're passionate about it, and it helped me realize that there are Pennsylvania natives and there are plants that we can grow here that have a history, that are from here. And as Dave said, they do better in their own environment. So I hope everybody can take the time to learn, because we're all from Pennsylvania, clearly, but people who are in different areas and different sections of the world, I hope that you can take the time to dig into your area and learn what does best for your area and use that to help you on your learning curve. So that way, it's not so hard when it comes to gardening, because it can be very discouraging when you start a plant or start a seed and it just dies right off. But environment is really everything. And ultimately, us learning that puts us in a more advantageous position. Another one of my inspirations is the pollinators. Like, I don't know why, but I love bees. I love butterflies. And, learning so much about them, learning about Pennsylvania natives and realizing how much more diversity we really need in order for them to continue to move. I tried to steer away, and my shirt says landscaping, but my cards say plantscaping. I'm working on that change now, because in my head, the landscaping that we are doing nowadays, it's not sustainable for our environments. It's just, it's a method. It looks beautiful. It looks great. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I feel like with plantscaping, we can introduce a little bit more mindful gardening. We can put things that have usage in our yard. It's not just beautiful. It's actually great for your native pollinators. It's great for your family. It's an herb that you could actually use rather than just a pretty plant that's going to die and now you got to pay somebody to come remove it. So it's just, I'm just trying to be an advocate for that growth and that mindful gardening practice, and just kind of digging into nature and really hearing what it has to say. A lot of the services that Seeds of Faith offers, as of now, is just simple gardens, and I also have some gardens that I just like to give away, quite frankly, to help people and help them get started. We can talk you through getting your seed started so that one in your own home, because it's a great process and children literally love that process. Like, I was actually really surprised at how much my girls love to sow seeds, so much so that all my plants around the house have something else growing in them that I didn't even know it was there, So it's like, I learned this myself. I got the Seed of Faith and I started just sowing seeds everywhere just to see things grow and like put the work in. And my kids slowly kind of moved into it too. So it's great to see them following in Dad's footsteps, in a way. So I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to talk about 3 things, like very, very briefly, and just kind of give my take on them and how it somewhat became very natural for me. So we're going to talk about some seed starting a garden, and a little bit of composting, because composting for me is the beginning and the end of your garden. And it kind of circles everything in, it ties it in. So once you are done with your garden, you always want to put something back into it. It's never really finished. First thing, and it's just really simple, really basic. The 4 things a seed needs to grow. I use this in so many different ways, and I actually use it to kind of raise my kids in a way, honestly. They need water, of course. Everybody knows that. You have to water your seeds in order to get them to grow. They need some oxygen. I see that as giving my children a little bit of space. You don't want to give them too much because it can be very overbearing for them. They're seeds. They're small. They don't need that much, but they do need some constant attention. The next thing is temperature, or most so heat, like some type of warmth. Some seeds actually won't sprout in cold, but given the time of the year, you'll be fine. You know, if you have natives here like broccolis and things like that, the seeds won't necessarily germinate, but you warm. The seeds, the roots, they need warmth, and they're not a very big thing when they slow down. So warmth is a very, very big thing. It actually does provide that heat also, as long as they have some direct sunlight on them. There are a few different methods that you can actually take, and I apologize because I actually did leave a few of those at home, but there are a few other methods you can actually take that will allow your seeds to germinate very easily. There's a lot of different ways to start seeds, and one of the reasons why I'm sure a lot of people are thinking the 4 things to grow, why is soil not one of them? Well, honestly, because of hydroponics now, soil is not necessarily, but it is, I think it's very, very important that we do focus on the soil and focus on the composition of what we're putting when you go into your garden. It helps you understand soil composition. And I have a few setups here right now, and for any seed, for a smaller seed cell because you have a lot less moisture. They'll be about 15 on a tray, and they'll be about 2 inches wide. They establish a root system very fast, very quickly, so it will fill that area instead of your seeds sitting in the moisture. For these, because they're super small, and they actually give the roots a lot more support. As you can see, these guys have grown well above where they should right now, and that I wait till I can show anybody who hasn't been able to see it. That's the idea of, you know, just paying attention to your root system, seeing what it needs, and putting what you need in the soil for that plant. These other setups are just the stages. They're actually a little out of order. These are simply the stages. These are sprouts that I have. This is Rue and Black-Eyed Susan. Black-Eyed Susan is actually a Pennsylvania mixture. Myself, it's actually a little bit of an experience. But I wanted to create this mixture of Rue and Black-Eyed Susan because I believe, you know, Rue is a very great medicinal usage herb, and it actually makes really beautiful. But I like to, you know, make dual usage out of things sometimes. I don't just want to plant an herb. I actually want to plant an herb next to a flower. So everything is to see it. You know, it creates a little bit more biodiversity, and that's just my take on things. Sometimes is that I see things as usable, but I also see them as just something to be able to appreciate, something to love. So I like putting them together. Here I have star flowers, which is honestly, I really love the star flowers because of the colors. And last year, when all the girls, we all came out, we're all just sitting there, and out of nowhere, it seemed like we got like swarmed by bees. And they're not native to our area, but they are also just something beautiful to see. And I got to be honest with you, I don't necessarily plant these all the time, but I do like to get them out there to let people see what is there. So I'm not trying to tell you not to plant them because they're not Pennsylvania natives, but being aware of where everything comes from, it's, you know, knowledge is half of the battle, just knowing those things sometimes. Another very important one for me, label. When you're starting your seeds, you definitely want to be sure to label them. I don't know if you have like an elephant brain and you remember everything. And if you are that amazing person, I really want to know how you do it, because every single time I don't label something, I almost always come back the next day and go, what did I put in there? Like, unless they're in order to where I can remember them, it's pretty crazy. One little funny story. This was probably my second year planting. I had my garden all ready to go. I had all my things I planted, and you know, I'm seeing all the true leaves and everything show. Things are starting to look really good. Sarah's grandfather comes over. His name's Alan Hunt, and he is a very knowledgeable farmer. He looks down at it and he goes, I don't think that's a sunflower at all. And I laughed at that because that was also another moment when I realized, like, I got duped. I have run into with gardening and just nature, period, that it's not that you don't remember these things. It's just that you're learning so much that a lot of it's not going to stick. You know, it's not going to hold unless you really tie it to something that you either love or something that you will remember, you know, or get yourself a journal. I have a journal and I write in it very, very often, actually. But yeah, that was actually a really fun time for us. And truthfully, that sunflower was another pivotal moment of our growing season. It wound up being a Russian mammoth sunflower, and it was about 18 feet tall. And the girls loved it. Every single day they came out and they stared at it, just watching it get tall. The head was about as big as head, and they loved it. Seriously, that was the beginning of them telling me, Dad, every year we got to plant sunflowers. We did. The kids learn that we just roll with it. We keep on going. Next year we will do better. We will label our plants and keep an eye on what seeds are being thrown where, But they pick after doing, I want to say humidity. I feel like if you're growing anything like this, or if you are doing something in a sprout, and nature will do its thing, because actually they will do their thing very, very quickly. So the humidity isn't 100%. You don't need it, but it's something that you do want to employ, or allow little dome lids underneath. They work just as well too, but you can put your seeds inside of a little plastic cup, poke a few holes in the bottom, because drainage is very important. You don't want them to sit in that, the water or the moisture, because a lot of mold, you can get a lot of different things from that. So you don't want that moisture. And you can also lose your seeds. They'll get really slimy and squishy. So poke some holes in the bottom, make sure you have that drainage there, and they will work very well. And also another little trick for humidity, in case you have a hard time trying to figure out how. Plastic bags over the top keeps the humidity in. Throw a little cup over it, that'll be just as well. But you want to be sure to burp it every few days. And the word burp is just a terminology usage. You just pop it open of it all. But I know that, allowing that moisture to come out of it helps the plant grow, and it helps it so it's not sitting in stagnant water. You don't want your roots sitting in that water, because that's root rot. And seedlings, they're not gonna, you don't want to set yourself up for that failure when you go to transplant. And it's like, what happened? So these are just little things to look ahead for. And also, I kind of just went over that, but transplanting is, for some plants, once again, you can transplant pretty early, because they can be cold hardy, or they also have very sturdy roots. I know one for sure, and this is my nemesis, spinach, does not like being transplanted at all. It's very hard to start outside sometimes, but they do not like being transplanted. When you do that, they almost always stunt, unless there's some magical trick to it. I am open to hear it, but up until last year, spinach is my nemesis now. Last year it was lavender, and I finally got lavender seeds to grow. So it takes quite a bit, but I got them to go. When you're transplanting, though, you want to definitely look at your seeds, whatever ones you have inside. Make sure that you have your true leaves, and the true leaves are the first leaves that actually show identification. They have like very, very profound characteristics on them to show you exactly what they are, or exactly what the plant is. A lot of times the first leaves that come out are the cotyledons. They all look the same. So if you have any squashes or watermelons planted near each other, or cucumbers for that matter, they'll all pop up and they're all going to look the same. So once again, make sure you label, so that way you can remember what everything is, and pay attention to, the true leaves that come out. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. These are the first leaves, and these are the true leaves, which show the characteristic of the plant. So that way you know what it is. All right. Also, if anyone wants to come and look at these after you're done, I do have the seed packets here for these that I've started. You can also read on the back. They have a lot of really cool, some information as to where they come from. These are fun, of course, to experiment with in your garden. And I think they're great to just kind of learn from a little bit, just to learn a little bit of history. All right. Now I'm going to move into the starting a garden section. And once again, just a quick overview of starting a garden. This more so pertains to raised bed gardening, because of the preparation, and because you have the same ability to decide where you want to put your garden as a regular in-ground farm, but you have a little bit more control, because you have to pay attention to the outside elements and also your ground elements, what you're putting into your garden. You have more control, but you also have a lot more room for error. So just want to go over a few things to consider when it comes to starting your garden. One of the ways that I remember this is tying it to my children. Once again, even as a child, they still need those four things: that water, the oxygen, the warmth, and the sunlight. But when they grow up, they need it a little bit more, and they also need even more space, and they need companionship. So the first thing to consider is water. Is your water source. When you're setting up your garden, of course, your raised bed, you want to make sure you have a water source close to you, because you don't want to be running back and forth with buckets and buckets of water in case we don't have any rain for a while. So you want to make sure you are close to your water source. You want to make sure that you have a way to get there. You don't want to overlook that. I've been there myself where I actually set my garden on the wrong side of the house, and it's like, all right, now I'm gonna get all the way up to take care of your garden, and it becomes time consuming. And that's how a lot of people usually decide, gardening's not for me. It's because we set ourselves back by not looking ahead. Oxygen and airflow. When planting, especially in raised beds, a lot of people try to just fill that raised bed as much as you possibly can, putting seeds in every single spot. That is not going to work at all. Nature is very, very resilient, and it will do what it does. The seed will sprout, but it won't do as well, and you may have a lot of mold and fungus and things in there because there won't be any airflow. Spacing out your plants is the best. I'll tell you this too. Airflow is very, very important. You get a lot of fungus, a lot of molds, and so you be very aware of the spacing of that. I personally have a seed of faith at Pinterest, of course.com, and I have a lot of different things that you can look at when it comes to companion planting and spacing. So you can refer to something to actually make the most of your space. Weed that. I don't want to go in there. I can't find my tomatoes. Looking actually have a lot more room to grow than we know. And that sounds really good, and I didn't even think about it. But we have a lot more room for people who don't know your brassicas, like your spinaches, greens, broccolis, cabbages, things like that. They actually will do well in the cold weather. You can continue to harvest some of them, and even if you cover them. If we have a really deep frost or something, you definitely want to cover them. The leaves are very thick, and they will recover. But if you want a really good, prolific harvest, you want to keep them covered so that way they do keep on going. They don't go through that damage. Depending on what